As a content creator, I forget that sometimes the stuff I post reaches people way outside of the US. So many people in different countries see my content, but my website is still only in English. So when people overseas are trying to sit and read the content on my site, they're unable to understand it all. And the default translations from the browser simply don't cut it. That's when I realized that problem that I was having wasn't necessarily reach, but it's actually the language and the translation of my website. So I finally translated it using a website called Weglot, and the difference was insane. The moment that my website started speaking to people in their own native language, conversions started to jump. I got more signups from countries outside of the US, and I started getting messages from countries and people that I never really expected. So I want to quickly walk you through what I did, how I changed my website, how fast Weglot actually worked, and how it opened up a whole new group of customers for my offers. All right, so as soon as we get signed up for Weglot, we're going to create our first project. We're just going to go in and give the project a name. And the cool thing is that it has a bunch of different website technologies or website builder platforms that you can integrate with, like WordPress and Shopify and Squarespace and Wix. Because we're using GHL, we're going to go and scroll down to the bottom and just select Other. This is going to help us in a minute when we get a specific little piece of code that we can just inject on our website as an HTML block, and that's going to basically do all of the translation stuff for us, which is going to be really cool. So now we can set up and configure the languages that we want. So the default is obviously going to be English, but we're going to want to translate it into Spanish. I'm going to do German, because I always get a bunch of people from Germany in my audience. We're going to go French. And then let's go something else, like let's do like Japanese. Click Next. And then we're going to put in the URL. John.com. Check. Perfect. So when we click this connect to my live website, this is going to show us the option that we can get this little JavaScript code. You can also create a preview URL, which is quite useful. This is going to be something that allows you to see all of the translations before you actually push everything live. So that's a cool feature that they have, but we're going to go ahead and just get this JavaScript code snippet here. So we're going to click Get Started. And this is going to give us the JavaScript code that we can then go and copy and paste into our website. So we're going to go here, we're going to click Copy and get that code. And we're going to go to the website, and we're going to go into the page that we want to get translated. And then we're simply going to add in a little code block here, code snippet. This is going to allow us to run this JavaScript on this page. So we click Save, and then we'll click Publish. And then if we open this up, we should see that in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a little switcher here. Now, some things are going to be translated immediately, like certain buttons and things, but not everything will be translated right off the bat, because we need to give the tool a bit of time to complete its translations. So setup is finished. We can now go to the translation section, and we can see that there's only a certain amount of words translated. The other languages are still in progress. So what we can do is we're going to just give it a little bit of time here, and then we'll come back and everything should be translated. All right, so now that everything is translated, we can go back to the switcher here. And as soon as we click onto a different language, we can see that all the information has been translated on the page. And this is into German, but we can then also go and switch it into French or into Spanish or into Japanese as well. So there's a lot of different options here, and what we might notice real quickly is that some of these items might not be completely perfect within the translation file. So for example, like we don't want to have it translate the actual domain name of a website. So what we can do is we can actually go into the platform, and if we go on to a certain language, we can check manually and update things manually based off of what we're seeing. So for example, if we scroll down here, we can see that stammer.ai was translated incorrectly here. So what we need to do is we just need to go back in and we need to update it. So that way the translation has been updated successfully. And so after we change that translation, we go back to the website and we change it into German, we can see that the translation has been updated to correct the issue where now the URL is shown correctly, but everything else is still translated fully. So that's a pretty cool update because that allows you to manually change things that might be kind of weird that the automatic translations might not catch, so to speak. So that's one cool feature to keep in mind when you're going through this process. And so when you're going through all these manual translations, you have the option to update it yourself, but you also have the option to get a professional translation as well. So you can order professional translations, which will allow you to get someone who is a native speaker to then translate that text into the right format or the right words in that specific language. But you can go through and see what the automatic translations are, or you can even use AI to help automate and improve the translations themselves, which is quite nice. So they do give you a ton of different ways to automatically translate everything all together, which is going to be very useful for people that have large websites with a lot of text. The website that we're building off of right now is quite small in the sense that there's not too much text and information to translate. So when you're going through it, you might not have a ton of issues with the translations if you have a small website, but the more information and the more text that you have on the website, you're going to run into some issues like that where you're going to have to change things like making sure the domains are the exact same, and those aren't necessarily wanting to be translated in the first place. And of course, in the settings, there's a bunch of useful tools and settings that you can enable as the website owner. So for example, auto switching the language based off of the browser language. That's going to be super useful to get people to read in their native language based off of what is in Chrome or Safari, whatever they're using. You can also update the language model. So you can configure this to be more of an informal or formal tone, and also give some information about what your website does and the type of information that's on your website. And that's going to help improve the automatic translations that you have available on your website. The language switcher allows you to update and change the look and feel of the little widget that's in the bottom right hand corner. And this will also allow you to organize and display the different languages as you'd like. And of course, there's going to be options to exclude or remove certain URLs from the translation files. This is going to be useful for things like emails or specific documentation that you need to make sure is done perfectly. So there's going to be some options to set that up here as well as being able to add more people to your project. So if you have your website editor or your website guy, you can add them to this to help them help you get everything set up in the correct way. So of course, you can always go back and add more languages. You can update each specific language individually depending on the translations that have been provided automatically. There's going to be a lot of useful tools here within the glossary as well as the professional translations, like I mentioned earlier, to help make sure that all of the translations that you're posting or that are available on the website are going to be accurate to the people that are viewing it on the other end. So lots of cool tools in here that are super useful to use, especially as the website owner when you're trying to get something done very quickly. And we were able to do this within probably like 5-10 minutes. All we had to do is just make sure that the website was updated, and then we added in that little bit of JavaScript code, and then everything is good to go. So once you're up and running, it's pretty simple to translate your website, and Weglot is going to make it super easy to do so by automating that entire process of translating everything, and then you don't have to worry about any problems with any native translations that are done by the browser. So it's everything that is reviewed by you, which is going to be the most important thing as a website owner, to make sure that the way that you're wanting your content to be received by people in different countries is the same way that you would receive it in your native language. So if you want to get started for free, you can use the link down below to start translating your website into pretty much any language in the world and be able to reach a whole new audience in different countries in their native language. So you can check it out at weglot.com, or you can, like I said, use the link down below to get started for free.